Hi there, it's Nicole for Simon Says Stamp, and I am so excited to share this clean and simple card with you today featuring lots of new components from the April 2018 Simon Says Stamp card kit called Beautiful Day. And this truly is a beautiful card kit with this awesome Lawn Fawn really rainbow pattern paper, bright cardstock colors, oversized I think it's a 6x8 stamp set, an awesome exclusive stencil, and then lots of fun things, a couple of new of the Distress Oxide inks, the Distress Oxide blending brush, just so many great things. I'm going to start with some of the 120-pound weight white cardstock from the kit, and I'm going to tape it down to my work surface, and then I'm going to tape the butterflies stencil that comes in the card kit down to hold it in place while I do a little inking with Distress Oxide inks. I'm also going to mask off some of the butterflies that I'm not using for my background so that I don't accidentally get some ink in those areas. Starting at the top, I'm going to work kind of rainbow order here using my blender brush. I'm picking up the picked raspberry ink with that blender brush and simply applying the ink through the stencil. Because I've taped it down, it's going to stay put, which is fantastic. And you can add as much or as little color as you want. I started pretty light and built up that color as I worked and got a little more comfortable with the blending brush. I also only have one of these blending brushes. And so I would take a dry paper towel and I would clean it off in between switching colors, just getting a lot of that excess ink off. I found I didn't really have any trouble with the inks until maybe I got to the blue. I think it was very greenish blue, which worked for me. I pulled the colors directly from the pattern paper. I knew I was going to use one of the striped pattern papers along the left side of my card to tie into this rainbow feel that I'm creating. And so I just kind of kept cleaning it. When I was done, I simply used a little water to clean up my brush. So the first butterfly is a combination of picked raspberry and spiced marmalade Distress Oxide inks. We're going to just lightly ink up the edges of the next butterfly then with spiced marmalade. I kind of tried to have them transition from one color to the next. That was my thinking and feeling as working through these butterflies. This is a pretty small butterfly, so I only wanted the tips to have that orange. And then I'm going to move on to Squeezed Lemonade, which is one of the ink pads that you get in the card kit this month. So if you have not got a chance to try the Distress Oxide inks, this is a fantastic time to try them out, see what you think. You even get the blending brush so you can really play around and see how amazing these inks are. I absolutely love them. The next butterfly is going to have just a little of Squeezed Lemonade. Really, a lot of that is going to get blended out. As I was working, I really realized that the yellow wasn't going to show up a lot. So I'm going to cover a lot of this butterfly with Twisted Citron Distress Oxide ink. I started at the bottom, and really there's not a big difference in color from the yellow to the green, this particular green. I didn't want to go any darker with my green. I felt like the Lucky Clover was going to be just a little too dark for pulling that color out of the striped pattern paper I'm using. Next, we have Mermaid Lagoon. This is the other ink pad included in the card kit this month. I, real quick, want to talk about all the products I used. I know you guys are huge fans of seeing what you can do with the kit only. So with the exception of tools like additional ink pads and the die that I'm using, everything is from the kit. I used the stamp set, the stencil, the pattern paper, both ink pads, the blending brush, then the white and pink cardstock, and even an envelope. So lots and lots of products were used with this card, but everything basically is from the kit. And you could even go a step further and not do the decorative die cut edge that I did and just do a straight trimmed edge, pardon me, and eliminate some of those tools as well. My final butterfly is a combination of Mermaid Lagoon and Wilted Violet that finishes off my rainbow. And I got more comfortable with that blending brush as I worked on this stencil and really felt more comfortable using it and applying a little more pressure to get that beautiful blend. So let's go ahead and peel up the stencil now. I'm going to save some of this tape that isn't inked up. I always like to reuse it. And when I remove the stencil, look at those beautiful stenciled butterflies. So, so pretty. There are so many great ways to use this stencil. I am really excited about this. I love the Simon Says Stamp stencils. Let's go ahead and take a paper trimmer then and trim off about, an inch or so, maybe not even quite that, maybe 3/4 of an inch off that one side. That way it's going to have room for our pattern paper border and then a pink border. This is kind of what I was thinking. Originally, I was just going to trim a thin strip of the doll pink cardstock and place it there, but I am such a fan of the Scallop Stitches die from Simon Says Stamp that I thought it would be fun to do that. Now, I don't want to waste all this beautiful striped paper back behind a panel that it's not going to be seen. So what I like to do so that I have plenty of paper left over for other projects is to just trim a strip. And about a little over an inch is going to be enough for that. And then I've got a little thin strip of doll pink cardstock. This is going to be tucked under the edge. Like I said, we're going to die cut that, so you're really not going to see a lot of that. So that's another way to save some paper. I definitely don't want to have lots of layers of paper underneath my stenciled strip. So let's adhere the striped paper along the left edge. I did go ahead and die cut a decorative edge with a Scallop Stitches using the largest Scallop Stitches die from Simon Says Stamp. We'll put adhesive along that strip. It's got a great stitching detail along with the scallop. And we're going to place the background on that. But what I realized was if I did that, it might not stamp the greeting very flat because that strip does not go all the way across the back. So before I adhere my butterflies to my decorative border, I want to stamp my greeting. And I already put adhesive on it, so it was sticking. I'm just going to move that real quick and move it out of the way. I have picked a greeting from the Beautiful Day stamp set that reads, "You make me feel like I can fly." I think the greetings are beautiful. I'm going to stamp that with some black ink, kind of in an open spot on my background where it really shows up. And then I can go ahead and adhere this right to my decorative die cut border. And then we will adhere the whole thing to the card background. At this point, really, your card could be done. I went ahead and added a few additional details I felt that would help make my butterflies really pop. So let's put some adhesive on the back of the card. Place this panel down. And then I'm going to take a black jelly roll pen. You could take any type of black pen you feel comfortable using. I like the jelly roll pen because it's nice and glossy, so it adds a kind of great detail there. I'm going to go over the bodies of the butterfly and the antenna and make them black. That's going to pull the black from the greeting out and really draw your eye into these beautiful butterflies. I was going to add glossy accents first, and I realized I better do the pen detail before I go any further. And working slowly from top to bottom, I'm going to start with the tips of the antenna and make little circles, and then kind of just carefully fill in that body. and look at the butterflies come to life. I really like how that ended up looking. I was taking a chance. I was a little bit nervous. I was afraid that I might ruin my stenciled background. I figured worst case scenario, I could redo this. I didn't want to, but I ended up absolutely loving it, and I think that it really rounds out the design. I'm going to do this. The 3 butterflies I did first are a lot easier because they had a separate body in the stencil. The last butterfly, the butterfly that's more yellow, it is a solid design. There's not really a defined body. So I came back to him. He has antenna, so I'm going to start there. And again, I really contemplated not doing the body, maybe just doing the antenna, but I don't think that looks as good. So I drew in my own body very carefully. You could probably also use the stencil to maybe draw it in and trace if you wanted to. Use the body of one of the other butterflies to give you a nice guide. Finally, I'm going to finish the front of my card by going over any of the little dots and adding some glossy accents to some of the areas on my butterflies as well. This is going to give some nice glossy raised areas. Really simple, but I think it adds a lot to the finished design. I'll do this to all of my butterflies, and then I'm going to set this aside to finish off my card just very simply. But again, little finishing details add a lot. And these are some of my favorites. A black jelly roll pen and glossy accents are 2 of my favorite tools for finishing off a card design. Now there are so many awesome greetings in that beautiful day stamp set. I really felt like I could finish off the inside of my card with an additional greeting. So on the inside, we're going to stamp a little greeting with some black VersaFine ink. And I chose to use "You Are Simply the Best." You could use anything that you wanted to here, but I thought that that worked really nice with "You Make Me Feel Like I Can Fly, You Are Simply the Best." So we will stamp that on the inside. There's what that looks like. And finally, to finish it off, I thought it would be beautiful to be able to open up this envelope. These ultra white envelopes do come in the kit, so that's another product from the kit I used. I'm using the envelope liner die from Simon Says Stamp. But when you open up your card, it has this beautiful striped insert that matches your card. So I'm going to slide the inside part in first, make sure that's lined up, fold the flap down, and there is my envelope liner that perfectly matches the card. Thanks for joining me today for this card and matching envelope using lots of components from the Simon Says Stamp April 2018 card kit called Beautiful Day. The supplies I used to create this card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Please be sure to visit the Simon Says Stamp blog for more information. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.